On top of a building, Yelena thinks about her depression and her sister's death, feeling like she lacks purpose. Suddenly she jumps and activates her parachute at a precise moment to enter the floor she needs. As Yelena begins beating up every guard that comes her way, it's explained that she takes out people and evidence that her employer considers threats. Eventually she makes it to a lab, but she can't open the final door because it needs facial recognition. Yelena gets ready to blow up the whole room when an armed scientist appears behind her. He says that the team working on the Sentry project has made a big discovery that could change the world, but Yelena explains that there was a government investigation. She slowly comes closer until she can bring him down, so the scientist opens fire. Yelena rushes to hide behind the furniture and throws some bottles to keep the guy distracted. When she sees an opening, Yelena jumps on the scientist's back, only to be stabbed with a scalpel. This isn't enough to stop her, so the scientist then tries to shoot her again. However, in the struggle he misses and the bullet hits him instead. Now she can't use his face on the scanner, so she ends up blowing up the whole lab. Meanwhile, super soldier Bucky has become a congressman. Today he's attending the trial on Valentina, the woman behind the OXC company and Yelena's employer. Her scientific projects have included experimenting on people to make new super soldiers. Valentina defends her actions, explaining that the world needs new heroes to protect them because the group known as the Avengers is scattered. She also swears she didn't do anything illegal and the court is free to continue its investigation. However, when she leaves, she tells her assistant Mel that they must make sure all evidence is gone. That night, Yelena visits her father Alexei. He also used to be a hero, but nowadays he runs a limo business. Yelena asks him if his new job makes him feel fulfilled and he says yes rather awkwardly. When Yelena says she's considering quitting Valentina's company, Alexei freaks out and admits he isn't happy either, so he'd love to have an action job like that. After Yelena leaves, she calls Valentina and asks her to give her something more public-facing. Valentina agrees to do so if Yelena finishes one last mission first. She must go to a facility in the mountains containing the company's most sensitive assets and kill the thief who will try to steal them. In the underground facility, Yelena finds a complete mess. There are files about Project Sentry revealing several bodies, so she decides to keep them. Suddenly John appears behind her with open fire, so Yelena uses a suitcase as a shield before throwing it at him. Then she shoots back, but he disarms her and starts a hand-to-hand fight. They exchange multiple blows while Yelena tries to tell him he isn't her target, but he says she is his. Yelena is a worthy opponent, but John is still stronger and manages to throw her off. When he's about to finish her, he's kicked down by Taskmaster, who explains she's there for John and not Yelena. John and Taskmaster begin fighting each other as their shields continue to clash. A new opponent appears in the form of Ghost, a woman with the power to make her body intangible. Yelena recognizes her as her target, but Ghost is here for Taskmaster, whom she hits after going through John. When Yelena tries to tase Ghost, her shot goes through her and hits John instead. Both Yelena and Taskmaster try to hit Ghost multiple times, yet they can't do anything because of her power. The fight continues among the four people. Each of them is going after a different person than the one trying to kill them, creating a circle of violence. When John throws his shield at Yelena, he accidentally hits the scanner on a box. He manages to hold Yelena down and Taskmaster approaches him from behind, only for Ghost to get between them and shoot Taskmaster right in the face. At that moment they hear someone puking. A guy named Bob approaches them in confusion and the doors surrounding them all close. Bob says nobody sent him and he doesn't remember how he got there. All the assassins explain why they are there, and Yelena finally realizes that they all work for Valentina. It turns out she sent them to the facility with some made-up story about a robbery to make them kill each other, since they're also evidence against her. Ghost announces she's leaving, but when she tries to go through the door, a security system activates, making a sound so painful that it brings everyone to their knees. Meanwhile, at a party thrown, Bucky approaches Mel and gives her his card, asking her to contact him if she ever wants to stop working for someone evil. Then Mel informs Valentina that all the assassins have gathered as planned, so they can finally eliminate them. When Valentina presses a button on a tablet, an alarm is activated in the facility. A clock showing 2 minutes appears on the wall and the temperature starts rising, which means they're about to be incinerated. Yelena asks everyone to look for the switch that will turn off the sound barrier, and during the search, John sees the open box he opened with his shield. The human shape implies Bob came out of it. When Yelena finds the switch, John destroys it with the shield. Now Ghost can go through it and open it from the outside. The others run out of the room as the flames strike, so they're all alive but knocked out. Yelena dreams of her training as a girl and how her best friend was killed on a mission. Bob appears in the dream too right before she wakes up. She notices that her hand is touching Bob's as they pull back. John keeps questioning Bob, who swears he doesn't remember anything. When Bob mocks him for his attitude, John aggressively pushes him against the wall and Yelena has to pull them apart. She explains they must work together to find an exit and Bob asks her to leave without him, not caring when she says he'd die. They bond over feeling a void inside them sometimes. Then John finishes making a hole in the wall so they can leave. The group is moving and they appear on the security cameras, which Valentina can see on her tablet. She discusses with Mel her options to kill them all, unaware that her driver is Alexei. Moments later Mel calls Bucky, who is cleaning his metal arm in the washing machine. Mel explains that she can't talk to him because it would get her in trouble, so she wants him to track her phone to get the intel he needs. Bucky is supposed to be doing things legally now, but he's so desperate to bring Valentina down that he agrees. Afterward Mel leaves on a plane with Valentina and checks the company files until she discovers that Bob is one of the test subjects from Project Sentry. Valentina thought all subjects were dead, so if Bob survived the procedure, it means a scientist found a way to make it work. Back in the facility, the group enters the elevator shaft and John tries to jump up, but it's too high to reach the exit. Bob offers an idea, so the four of them end up locking arms to form a climbing circle. They keep arguing as they go up, getting frustrated because the shaft never seems to end. Eventually they reach the door and realize there's no way for one of them to cross it without the others falling. Another argument ensues, so John grabs Yelena's baton and sticks it on the door. The others fall, but Ghost manages to hold on to the wall with her tools, and Yelena holds on to her before using cables to catch Bob. Then John throws the fire hose down the shaft so they can follow him. When John grabs Bob's hand, he suddenly finds himself at home. His wife is asking him to watch their son, but instead he's looking at news articles mocking him and he's dismissive of her worries. He snaps out of it when Yelena calls his name, and John realizes he almost went down the shaft. The group goes to the front door and discovers they're surrounded. While Yelena and John argue over a plan, Ghost disappears. At the same time, Valentina arrives and tells her men that this is now a non-lethal mission because she wants to rescue Bob. Suddenly the front door explodes thanks to Yelena's bomb and the soldiers make their way in. Yelena tries to bring the power back on but the machine fails, so John has to fight them in the darkness. When Yelena and Bob reach the corridors, the soldiers are down and John is gone. A new team is sent inside and fills the area with gas. Yelena grabs masks from the fallen soldiers so she can protect Bob while she starts fighting the men. Not to lose sight of Bob, she ties him to her back with the hose. She brings a few more soldiers down and disarms one, so she passes the gun to Bob. He's an awful shooter and bullets end up bouncing all over the room. Bob tries to shoot a soldier but stops when he notices it's John, who stole a uniform to remain unnoticed. Afterward all three of them put on soldier uniforms and go outside, where Ghost is waiting with a stolen truck. When they try to leave, some soldiers stop them because the mission isn't over. John tries to lie but the guards aren't buying it. Suddenly they hear shots and discover that Bob has left the truck. He's shooting in the air to get everyone's attention, and the soldiers rush to shoot him down. While a desperate Valentina orders them to stop, the group uses the chance to leave. They don't get to see that Bob is still alive. His body floats up and he makes a big jump that takes him to the clouds, and this time the team can see him. Unfortunately Bob passes out and falls. His landing is so strong that it sends a huge shockwave and the entire area shakes, causing the truck to crash. The trio continues on foot and discusses Bob, realizing that Valentina had been experimenting on people just like the government said. Yelena shows them the papers she stole, which show a shiny suit for a superhero named Sentry. In the morning, a company helicopter takes Bob away while Valentina orders Mel to reopen an old facility. The trio is still walking and trying to find civilization, but they drop to the ground when they see a car. It turns out to be Alexei, who has come wearing his old soldier suit to rescue his beloved daughter. As the group leaves in the car, a bunch of trucks appear behind them and open fire. Alexei uses a vodka bottle to make a Molotov bomb and throws it at their enemies, but the trucks are armored and take no damage. Ghost jumps to the back of the car to attack, but the trucks have the same sound barrier as the facility, which hurts her and forces her to go back. While John stops the bullets with his shield, Yelena gets ready to shoot, but something else makes a truck explode and sends it off the road. Soon another grenade hits the second truck and also brings it down. It turns out Bucky is following them on his bike. The last truck starts shooting at him, but he drives fast to dodge all the bullets. He goes to the side of the truck and punches a soldier to steal a gun, then he shoots a rope to break it. Once the truck's ahead of him, Bucky uses his special arm to pull at the rope, causing the last truck to crash too. Lastly, he shoots mine at the limo, also defeating Yelena's group. At the special facility, Valentina visits Bob, who is just waking up. She explains that Bob used to be an addict with a mentally ill mother and a juvenile record, who signed up for her medical trials to become a better person. When she tries to bring up Bob's father, he gets upset and all the lights flicker. Valentina tries to manipulate him, saying that the assassins at the facility were very bad people but he can become a hero. When she touches his hand, she revisits the memory of her father getting killed because he was involved in a shady business. Valentina snaps out of it when Bob agrees to take her offer. Afterward, Mel tells Valentina that Bob is unstable, so this is a very bad idea. Valentina doesn't care because she can just build a kill switch. At an abandoned facility, Bucky has handcuffed the entire team, explaining that they're evidence against Valentina. They try to tell him that they don't work for Valentina anymore and that they need to rescue Bob, but he doesn't believe them. At that moment, Mel calls Bucky and tells him the same story, warning him that Bob may get dangerous if he's let loose. Bucky finally frees the others and asks them to help him stop Valentina. In the meantime, Valentina guides Bob to make him use his powers. He manages to move a glass from afar and boil the water inside until it explodes. Later in the city, Bucky drives a truck with the team hiding in the back. When they arrive at the facility, he crashes the truck right through the entrance. Everyone comes out and starts fighting the guards using their variety of abilities and combat styles. After they bring down quite a number of men, the battle is interrupted by Valentina's voice on the speakers asking them to come up. The team takes the elevator to the last floor, where Valentina starts mocking them one by one. Bucky tries to grab her, but something freezes his hand. It's Bob, who appears wearing his new sentry suit and hair dye. The press is on its way to the facility, so Valentina wants Bob to defeat the team to make it look like he's a hero saving the world from a bunch of assassins. Bob says he doesn't want to hurt them and asks them to turn themselves in, but they refuse. Alexei tries to attack Bob, who easily sends him flying into the wall with a light punch. Yelena doesn't want them to fight, but the others still attack Bob, only to be easily overpowered. Bucky opens fire and Bob stops the bullets midair before sending them back, so John has to stop them with his shield. The battle continues and Bob keeps showing off how powerful he is. Alexei is thrown through the window and brought back in like a sack of potatoes. Ghost's special moves are dodged by supernatural speed, and John's shield gets bent on both ends. Yelena jumps on Bob's back and tries to tase him while begging him to stop, so he jumps to hit her against the wall. Bob even has heat vision, which melts John's gun. After Bob rips out Bucky's metal arm, the group decides it's time to retreat and they rush to the elevator. Valentina orders Bob to kill them, but Bob refuses, saying they aren't a threat anymore. When she tells him that he has to follow her orders, Bob doesn't understand why. If he's so powerful, he can make decisions of his own. Valentina gets the kill switch ready, however Bob moves fast and makes her drop the switch while pushing her against the wall. He's about to kill her, but at that moment he collapses because Mel has pressed the switch. The women leave thinking Bob is dead and discuss sending a cleanup crew for the body. After the elevator closes, a dark energy surrounds Bob. Outside the building, the team discusses new plans, however Yelena thinks there's no point because they all suck and she leaves. Alexei follows her and apologizes for not contacting her for a year, explaining he thought she didn't want to see him. Yelena goes on a rant, explaining how alone and depressed she feels without goals or her sister. Using kind words, Alexei shares stories about the girl she used to be before she was trained to be an assassin, saying he still sees the brightness in her. Suddenly a bunch of people on the street start looking up. Void Bob is floating outside the facility and the soldiers are shooting him, but the bullets do nothing. Bob raises his hand and the soldier instantly disappears, only leaving a shadow behind. 2 helicopters come after him, however Bob voids those soldiers too and the first helicopter crashes against a building. A tower starts falling and the crowd runs to dodge the debris. Alexei protects some people to help them get into a building, then he throws Yelena so she can push a civilian out of the way of an uncontrolled truck. There's a van rolling down the street so Bucky rushes to push it off, saving a fallen couple. The second helicopter crashes on the street and Ghost also moves people out of the way. Even John comes back to stop a huge building piece from crushing a woman. It's too heavy for him so the others rush to help him move it. The crowd starts clapping for them. Another piece of debris is about to hit a girl, so Alexei quickly stops it. However, Bob then makes the girl disappear. Soon Bob's darkness is spreading through the city, voiding every person in its path. Citizens run in panic and the team helps them find safety, but Yelena chooses to step into the void. In the void, Yelena revisits her friend's death again. When she tries to run, She finds a wall surrounding the area. Then she gets between the assassin and her friend, who tells her it's too late and attacks her. Yelena is thrown against a tree and captured by the branches, so she pushes until she breaks them and runs through the wall. Next, Yelena falls into a memory of her training as an assassin. Her young self is the first one to finish the exercise, so the teacher whips the other girl's hands. Yelena covers her young self's eyes to protect her from the cruelty. In front of her, a mirror appears showing Bob. She shoots it to break it and jumps through it, but instead she finds a copy of herself dealing with her alcoholism. The other Yelena pushes her against the wall and forces her to drink before the scene resets. When Yelena calls for Bob, he appears in another mirror. She tells him she just wants to talk, so he allows her to enter his room. Bob explains he isn't controlling the void, sometimes he just has bad days and the void takes over. Yelena hears some voices and discovers they're in Bob's childhood memories, which show his father abusing the family. As he starts to cry, she sits next to him and offers some comfort, explaining he must learn to depend on others and unburden his troubles to make them lighter. When Bob takes her offer, the room starts to shake and things fly all over the place. Yelena is almost swallowed by the wall, but she manages to pull out. The curtain jumps off the window and rolls itself around their necks, trying to choke them. At that moment, the rest of the team arrives to cut the curtain and stop the rest of the objects until the room calms down. As the void continues to cover New York, Bob tells the team that to go out they must go through the other rooms, which are all his bad memories. The team agrees it's time to confront their bad pasts and start moving. First they knock down Bob's father, then they hit a younger Bob who was violent during his first job because of some substances he took. Next they reach the lab where the experiment happened. The void is there and immediately moves a bunch of objects to trap the team. Bob tries to attack the void, which keeps overpowering him over and over while reminding him that they'll always be alone. As the room starts to crumble, Bob looks at his new friends and jumps on the void to repeatedly punch it, only for the darkness to start consuming him. Alexei manages to move the trap enough for Yelena to come out. She jumps over the floating furniture and a hole in the ground to reach Bob, hugging him right before the void finishes taking over him. As she promises that she's there for him, the rest of the team also frees themselves and joins the hug. Bob realizes he has people who support him and finally manages to overpower his inner void, pushing everyone out to return to the city. The darkness fades away and all the people come back in one piece too. Bob doesn't remember what happened, so Yelena promises to protect him. The team tries to go after Valentina, who walks away to make them follow her to a press conference she's improvised on the street. She introduces them as the new Avengers, saying they were her idea. The team decides to accept it, but Yelena tells Valentina that they own her now. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.